I have with me in the studio now the Executive Director of Network of Civil Society Organization of Nigeria, Comrade Emmanuel Ogbidi. Iman, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Duke.
Good morning.
Good morning, viewers.
I also have joining us from Rivers State, the Commissioner for Information, Rivers State, Joe Johnson. Joe, many thanks for creating the time to be part of this conversation. It's good to see you again. Could you walk us through where we are now with the local government election just concluded? The APP eventually win all the local government councils, or there's still a council yet to be declared, as we heard earlier, based on some of the feedback that we got. A swearing-in took place yesterday, where was it all the council chairmen that were sworn in, or what is the situation with that?
In Nigerians, the long-awaited Rivers State local government elections held on Saturday, and the turnout was quite impressive. It was well contested. Of the 23 local governments in the state, we saw results of 22 coming from the Actions People's Party. And then the Action Alliance won one local government, which is a chain local government. But the rest of the local governments were won by members of the APP. Then across the councillorship, Young People's Party, APC, and one more party won the 5 seats that councillors got. So I can imagine the joy and the excitement on the lips of Rivers people, particularly that we had an election that the Nigerian police withdrew midway, when the process was already on, for the singular reason that they said they were obeying a federal high court judgment, whatever that is. But the important thing is to say that that election came at about 4 p.m. yesterday. All the elected chairmen were sworn in. And the cheering news this morning is that the Nigerian police had decided to unseal the 23 local government council secretariats, which they sealed since June this year. So Rivers State is peaceful, and we thank God that we've come this far.
Joe, you talked about a judgment, a high court judgment from Abuja, which of course was instituted to halt this election. Was that judgment vacated before this election took place?
Well, in law, they say when two equities come, the first to arrive takes preeminence. We had a judgment of a state high court. Don't forget that RISEC, Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, is a creation of our own law, the law of Rivers State, from the Rivers State House of Assembly. And you also know that in 1993, what truncated the Abiola and the 1993 election was the judgment from Justice Ikpeme, and the subsequent thing that followed from the Supreme Court was that no court of the land, no court of the land should stop an electioneering process. If you have grounds, you can approach either the tribunal or approach a regular court after the election, not to stop a process, because electioneering is a process. You can't come at the middle of it and then you think that you can shift the goalposts. We obeyed the court's judgment from the state high court, because that is where the jurisdiction of the state high court over RISEC lies. The other one I describe as mere academic exercise. It has no basis, but even if we need to look at it, the judgment from the Lifu court, that's the Federal High Court, didn't say stop the process. It said police should withdraw. Police announced to the entire world and Nigerians at large that they were withdrawing. Not a problem. We went to the election without police. They said don't provide materials. The chairman of Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission is a jurist. He's a retired judge, and he said he already had obtained the voters register, which those who went to court asked INEC to withhold and not give to Rivers State people to exercise the franchise. He said he already has it. So if you go to court to ask for something that is not there, it's just for the records, it's for academic, for the future of law students. So I want to believe strongly that we acted within the laws of our own state, and we acted because other states also had elections yesterday. I'm not too sure that the vibration, the vituperations, all that is coming from Rivers State is part of what you would have seen in Akwa Ibom, which is a neighboring state, and then Kaduna State, where electioneering also took place.
The outcome of the local government election in your state is taking the pattern of most local government election. I'm just being modest. Taking a pattern of most local government election outcomes in Nigeria, where one party literally clears all the local government council. Does that mean your principal, Governor Siminalayi Fubara, has now become an APP member?
No, far from it. My governor and all of us in the council, as the State Executive Council, are members of PDP. The governor reinvented that will when the governor of Bauchi State, who is the chairman of PDP Governors Forum, for which my governor is the vice chairman, reinvented that will that is still a member of PDP. PDP did not go to this election. The reasons, well, you already know. We did not go to this election. The parties were left to make the decision. And I can tell you that what delayed even the process was that we're still counting or collating results of the last local government, which is Eche, which eventually came and was won by a candidate of the Action Alliance, AA. I've also mentioned that other parties won in their own parties at the councillorship level. At the councillorship level, we produce councillors. In the results that I've heard from across a few other states that had elections yesterday, it was a one-way traffic. In our own case, we have left a model to say that whereas the police ought to protect us, Rivers people took dressing and voted, and the turnout was quite a mass. Other parties also won. APC even won. PDP did not go to the Congress, to the Congress, to the electioneering. They were not on the ballot. But APC, that is subdivided, that has a legally recognized Emeka Bekele style, side, went to the election. The one that belongs to Tony Okocha reneged. They didn't come for the election. But APC candidate emerged as a councillor. Isn't that cherry? Isn't that a departure from what has always been the case across other areas where you probably would have had local government elections? So I think that our governor deserves to be applauded.
Your principal is setting up his own structure parallel to the PDP, considering the protracted crisis that has bedeviled the state against the friction, the background of the friction between Fubara and Wike in recent times.
I didn't get it clearly, but if you're talking about structure, what is structure? Rivers people have taken back their states. There is no more, there's no more one-man show. You can see from the results of the election that Rivers people came out en masse against all the conspiratorial plots to make sure that the Nigerian police.
Well, let me come back to my panelists here in the studio. You've been following um, the happenings in Rivers State and also hearing from the Rivers State Commissioner for Information. We're here now with local government election, and it looks like this pattern of results from local government election has come to stay, except that Rivers State has, brought a new dimension into the whole conversation. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think very quickly, the happenings in Rivers State is beginning to contribute a great deal in shaping our democratic operations and system in terms of conducting election in this country, vis-a-vis the local government election just now. Very, very prominent in it is that, one, election can be conducted in this country without the police. That is very clear. And as a matter of fact, there is no statutory provision in the Constitution that the police must be involved in the conduct of any election. The involvement of the police is the discretion of the umpire. The INEC, in this case, the SIEC, which is the RISIEC. And that is to the extent with which, if the umpire look at the scenario, the political temperature, and the environment at that point in time, it will give a report to the security agency that for this kind of election, considering the scenario that we have, we will need S kind of policing, either heavy or light, even to some extent sometimes involving military. The discretion of the umpire. And if you ask me, the corpus conducting election, he said no, because election is a civil process in every democratic setting. So the Rivers State scenario has demonstrated again that ordinarily we do not need the police to conduct an election. An election is not a war zone. It's not a fighting or a contestation where you have guns and all of that. You brandish guns everywhere. So as a matter of fact, that's has come, and the election held without the involvement of the police. No laws have been broken there. And in the other stance, the court also said, asked the INEC not to provide register or voters register for the RESEC. And they said, we already have our own register. And the local government election is a creation of the state legislature, the state laws. So you are not going to assess that local government election with the Electoral Act. You are going to assess the conduct of that election with the laws that establish RISIEC, which is the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. And in the 36 states, it is the same pattern. In all the 36 states, the SIEC, the state houses of assembly, have their laws. So the question that should be in our lips: did the Rivers State local government election satisfy the provisions of the local government, the state laws that is provided in the conduct of a Rivers State local government election? If the answer is yes, then that election is standard, that election is valid, and that election has produced substantive local government administrators, the chairmen, and the Constitution will recognize them. And this became very necessary because the Supreme Court gave a ruling. And by the end of this month, ordinarily, any local government in this country that is not having a constituted that is not having a constitutionally voted local government chairman or administration cannot assess the allocations. And if that is correct, and you do not conduct election in Rivers State and in other states today, what happened to local government workers? What happened to staff and persons who work under the local government commissions? They should be stranded? The answer is no. So beyond any interest or political interest of any political homo sapiens in Rivers State, what is most important is the Rivers people, is democracy, and it is the rule of law. So if the governor of Rivers State, of which the commissioner is saying we should congratulate them, because what we normally have in local government election is that the sitting governor and his party produce all chairmen and councillors and all the seats. But in this one, we are having something different. And I think it's something that we need to appreciate, and it's something we need to build on, and it's something we need to encourage, that no court process should be able to stop an election proceedings. If not, one day it will be presidential election, and somebody will go to court, procure a court judgment, a court order to stop a presidential election in this country, and we'll be at the middle of nowhere. So at that point, I think we need to take it from here. The police is now very clear that we can conduct election while people are going to the market, people are going about their normal business, and everybody walks into the polling booth and vote and go home without any threat.
Okay. Chris, I mean, we heard from the Commissioner for Information, some of the inner workings that brought forth what we have seen. But it looks like this seeming rush to conduct local government elections is predicated on the Supreme Court judgment, which will ultimately exclude states, local governments from accessing allocation if they don't conduct local government election.
You see, it dovetails into what people say about the position and relevance of the judiciary in sustaining and upholding democratic tenets. You can see what one judgment have caused. The way it has restrained those who are anti-democratic in their intentions, and then empowered those who are democratic in their intentions. Of course, we expect Fubara to be apprehensive that the time lag of the Supreme Court will soon elapse. And so, we expect a responsible governor to quickly conduct local government election, not caretaker committee, local government election. And then it just tells you that if the courts, if the judiciary will take its positions, it will soon expose anti-democratic forces within our country. Why would two gunship helicopters be flying on the roof of Asari Dokubo on the day of voting? And the man was forced to do a video and said, right now on my roof, hovering around my house, are two gunship helicopters. And they are there to prevent him from going out to exercise his franchise. Who gave that order? Was it the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Commander of the Armed Forces of the Federation? I doubt it. So the courts, the judiciary should stand up. And there are pending cases which the judiciary must now stand up and save our democracy. One of such is the September 21st election in Edo State. Because quite contrary to the position of those forces, that you need 35,000 strong policemen to add to the 8,000 security personnel you have in Edo State to conduct an election that produced so much controversy till now and have jeopardized our democracy. You have an election conducted at the grassroots level where you have more participation from the grassroots without police. And you don't have anybody querying the results of that election right now in Rivers State. So we are beginning to now see what I said earlier, that democracy did not borrow any cabal to run its affairs for it. If you leave democracy to operate in its own tenets, democracy has a self-regulatory, a mechanism within it. And that is that the people will vote out the leader who they think has done wrong or has not done well by themselves when his tenure elapses. So we are seeing it in Rivers State now. Therefore, the judiciary will appeal to them they should please redress the injustice and the state capture that happened in the Edo State September 21st, and let the judiciary take the lead. They are the arm of government that should interpret the law and regulate the conduct of politicians and every other member of the society.
Okay. Let's quickly link up with Joe Johnson once again to take a final word from him before we let him go. Joe, thanks again for staying with us on this conversation. What has happened in Rivers State has led to the likes of the BOT chairman of PDP, Wabara, saying that PDP has lost Rivers State from what's happening right now in the state. Isn't that correct?
For PDP not to have partaken in this electioneering is the greatest undoing to those of us who are members of the party. But we're not losing hope because there's one thing that is constant. Change is constant. And I believe strongly that between now and by the projection of people that the elections will hold in 2027, you never can tell. Perhaps we may gain ground and bounce back. But let me commend your panelists, particularly the man who spoke before, the last speaker anyway. I think he's from the civil society, and the other gentleman there, to say that Rivers State has been in the news and Nigerians are aware that there's a great oppression. But what has happened yesterday or the last 2 days is an indication that democracy has come to stay. Just like the last speaker said, that the democracy has its own discerning elements. There are things that democracy will not accept. What we have gone through is enough to get us back to the drawing board to ask whether is this the kind of democracy that would have where conflicting court judgments will come? Is it democracy where you'll be having beliefs withdrawing from a democracy, from a process which ought to protect lives and property? But it tells you that when a man is boxed into it, he didn't lose any soul. Nobody died, and it came out very perfect. It's something that we need to go back and find out whether there is even any need to bring elements that are anti-democracy to be in the democratic process. This is a democracy people pay their lives with. This is a democracy people fought for. And here we are, we're toying with it. And Rivers State is key in everything we do in this country. If you joke with Rivers State and joke with the states, whether Rivers State or Borno State or Anambra, whatever, every state is important. Every state is important. So whatever you do here may dovetail, may even be counterproductive to our democratic pursuits. Nigerians are watching. Thank you to all Nigerians who are able to speak up. We have been liberated.
Joe, there are those who will say you are quick to speak this way because, in a sense, you're on the winning side. Everything seems to be in your favor. If you were on the other side, you probably won't speak like this.
No. Our party didn't go to the polls. PDP didn't go. And so, how would I be? When I could watch other politics, I'm not a member of APP. I don't also belong to APC. I will thank God that seamless exercise came out well. We didn't lose lives, contrary to the expectations of the naysayers. We are here together, and today work is on, and those who have gone have gone. I'm on my way to the office.
Joe Johnson, what has happened in Rivers State by virtue of APP winning all the seats? Is this not tantamount to anti-party activities on the part of your principal and people like you still in the PDP?
No, why are you changing the narrative? Man? Don't change the narrative. You know why? If our party had gone to the polls, PDP would have won. But if another party who put themselves together and went to the polls and came out the way they came out, I would expect Nigerians to commend my governor for being a true sportsman, for allowing democracy to thrive. Even when His own party is not on the polls. I mean, on the ballot.
Will this bring the protracted crisis in Rivers State to an end by your assessment, or, as some have said, it will conflagrate the situation?
Rivers people have spoken. You talked about structure. The structures are there now. We're seeing those who have won is a crossbreed. It's not just one party. And Rivers people have spoken. I believe strongly that this will signpost the best to come for the state.
Joe Johnson is the Commissioner for Information, Rivers State. Thank you so much for your time. We hope to be able to speak to you as more events unfold in your state. Thank you for your time. We truly appreciate this conversation.
I deeply appreciate. I salute everyone in that studio.
Thank you very much. Well, where is this leading the state? I mean, he's of the opinion that what has happened, the people are liberated, the people have spoken, but are those who will feel differently about the developing situation? Do you think this will bring the crisis to an end, or there's still more to come from all the protagonists as far as this issue is concerned?
Look, you see, two things. One, we already know the outcome of the election, and the Rivers people by now with more enlightened and politically, equipped to take decisions in their hands and determine their life and destiny. And if you ask me, I think it is a thing that that we encourage every River State people to go about, their lawful duties and be involved, be more, there should be more participation in political process in River State as it were now. Because if it were to be the usual way, these things are left for political actors to determine, and everybody just, stay back. And that's on one side. Then on the other side, we should be able to see that in democracy in general, there are three main institutions now determines our democracy, either the movement or the growth of our democracy or the retrogressive tendency that we'll see in our democracy. The security agency, in this case, the police, the judiciary. In this country, you see politicians say they rig election and they will advise you to go to court. But in other climes, politicians are scared to take election proceedings to the court because they know what the judiciary will do when it comes to determining electoral cases. And also, the umpire, in this case, INEC and the rest, we must be able to build institutions at this point in time that should be truly independent, that will not take side when it comes to election proceedings or when it comes to any democratic operation. Take, for example, in Rivers State, the court has said do not participate in election that day. Does it also involve the statutory responsibility of the police of protecting the citizens? Because it was recorded that there was no police or policing in Rivers State on that day. Participating in an election is different from carrying out your constitutional responsibility of securing the state or the environment. If you are not seen at the local government election position where they are doing election, what about in our streets? What about in the roads? What about in the environment? Observing security issues. If there were kidnapping that day, what would have happened? That doesn't have to do with election. If there was cases of robbery, what would have happened? So the police, when carrying out their responsibility, they must be very careful not to give political colorations to their involvement or to their actions, because total neglect and withdrawal from the River State space that they suggest some level of political involvement or sympathy for those who were also boycotting the election. Okay. Not participating in the election does not involve not carrying your general responsibility as a security agency in policing the state, not the election. Okay. So the police have the constitutional and the moral obligation to redeem their image from the Edo State issue that happened down and now to the River State. You remember in the Edo State case, the IG came to the state and he said in one breath that the vigilantes are banned. And you begin to ask yourself, on what ground, on what constitutional ground, on what moral reason, you just ban a volunteering group where you have men who are volunteering to protect their environment, their state, and involved in security protection, and also assisting your own agency. We have had cases in Edo Central during the time of Dakwara. 12 kidnapped victims were rescued in one day with the assistance of the police and the vigilantes. We have seen in Edo North where a reverend father was kidnapped, and it was the vigilante that moved ahead into the forest before the police joined, and they were able to rescue one out of two. We have seen several cases, and you just say it is banned. It is not correct. In those scenarios, we can say that in an election process like that, the vigilante will not be deployed in the conduct of state election. It is very clear that during that election, they will not be part of it. And after the election, they go about securing and assisting the police. As it is today in Edo State, the Edo State citizens are exposed to crime and criminalities. You go to, you see even mini buses, people carry guns, they carry passengers and they drop them off after some distance and show them guns. You see our market women who normally goes to their market in the early hours within 4:30 and 5 cannot move in their localities anymore. The police don't do this. It is the local vigilantes. But just a statement that has the coloration of political errand from the IG has crippled that volunteering group and all of that. Yeah. It should not be encouraged. The Red Cross, for example, is a volunteering organization, and we know what the Red Cross is doing. Okay. So we should encourage those set of persons.
All right, Chris, let me take a final word from you. On account of where we are with all of these, many of these things that are happening, they are inspired by politics, political interest. What's your final take?
Well, I'm very happy with the results because, as you can see in Rivers State, my coalition is forming. This is where we have been crying, that until the people will form coalitions and synergize, you have about 3 or 4 parties now, at least from what we heard from the commissioner. You have APP, you have APC, you have AC. Now, it has dovetailed to the coalition.
You even have AAC.
You have AAC. So a coalition is forming. It is this kind of coalition that is going to withstand and overthrow oppressive tendencies and oppressive status quo. Okay. We need to have that kind of synergy. So when some people have captured the states, people from the grassroots must organize. They must come together. I'm sure what is happening there in Rivers State is that when parties saw that crisis is going on, they understood that crisis is transition. So other younger parties and other parties that had less population went into the fray, and they were able to get seats for themselves. So you are coming to a situation like in Britain, where you have so many parties. I mean, you can have a political party controlling just a mayor.
But we can also commend the police because they've unsealed the local government so that the newly elected council chairman can access the secretariat.
You don't commend people for doing their lawful duty.
They don't have choice.
What they did earlier was illegal. So you don't commend people for doing their
that was done to prevent a breakdown of law and order.
It was since June. For since June,
all right.
The police have refused to do their duties since.
All right, Chris, let me pause it there, and thank you so much for your time, Comrade Maogbidi. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.